miniseries, it's time to break in to the Mid-Year Movie Awards for 2024. Obviously, these are miscellaneous awards that we have given in awards years past, as well as some new additions for this year. And let's kick off by making fun of some of the people that we rely on to do these awards. And we're going to start with Hollywood's dumbest moment of 2024 so far. My selection for Hollywood's dumbest moment of 2024 so far is, hey guys, it's an election year. We got to do a movie about Trump. Because he's bad, don't you know? Okay. Let's get Sebastian Stan to be him. Because people like Sebastian Stan.
Wait, what is this?
The Apprentice.
Oh, no, I don't know anything about the movie.
Oh, okay.
No, yeah, that's cool.
Like, we gotta stop. And I understand he's gonna be the nominee because Republicans don't care. Like, they don't. Like, this is their guy, and they're gonna go with him. But like, can we just... The only people that movie is going to appeal to are the people who aren't looking to get their minds changed. And I'm not saying they should. I don't think he's a good guy. I'm pretty confident he's not. But like...
I'm on good authority.
I'm pretty sure. You don't gotta. Like, this is a movie you make in 12 years, maybe.
Yeah. When
people have just calmed down a bit. This is doing nothing good for anybody.
Right.
Other than Sebastian Stan's wallet. And I ain't gonna fault the guy for taking a paycheck to make a movie. And the fact that you're gonna force it to happen in an election year is your own fault. The second that I heard it was something that was actually happening, I'm like, you are idiots. And I don't care how good. Maybe the movie comes out and it's Citizen Kane. I don't know. I've seen stills from it. It doesn't look good. So that only reinforces the idea that, like, this looks like you are forcing this so hard because we gotta make it this year because it's an election year, as if this movie is gonna sway anybody's vote. Like, it's all embarrassing, and to me, it's the absolute dumbest conscious decision that Hollywood is making in 2024.
This not only doesn't do any good, it might do harm. Because
actively,
it's like, read the room, Hollywood, because if you're gonna make an anti-Trump movie, you know that's just gonna, I hate to say radicalize, it's just gonna enforce the people who already love Trump and make him more of a massive figure. Because maybe, and I'm not even saying this with certainty, maybe if it was a different person, you might be able to get away with this and it wouldn't cause harm. But Trump is already like a god to the Trump Republicans. Now, they're not all Trumpians, right?
True.
So, like, what are you going to do? Everything you say negative about Trump is going to feed his power. Just leave it alone.
And it's what they haven't understood for 10 years.
I know. They think that they're doing something, but they aren't.
No.
Just let them go. Just stop.
Right.
All right. So for my pick for Hollywood's dumbest moment, mine's not nearly as important as Trump. But we're going to have the yin and yang of the movie awards.
Fair enough.
Mine is, the industry needs to stop interviewing Zack Snyder.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Some of this might be stuff that he said last year, but he kind of reiterated it. So some of it's not technically 2024, but some of it is. But he talked about it again, and it's just, okay. I'm going to be reading a lot with this. You got to know that I'm a big Zack Snyder fan. I really am. I truly am. But they keep talking to him, and it's becoming a bit of a problem.
Okay.
There's two movies in particular he has talked about this year. We'll break it down into the two, okay? Number one, Rebel Moon. Mm-hmm. This is what I wrote down in my notes. He wants to make 4 to 6 of these movies.
Hmm.
I don't hate the first one. I gave it a little too much props last year at the end of the year awards. I still like it, but I did rate it a little higher.
Mm-hmm.
I don't despise part 2, even though it was a massive step down. I know a lot of people did despise it. I'm a defender of Zack, but this isn't working, man. Rebel Moon is not working. Okay? You have to let it go. Like, and I know this comment was from last year, but I still hate how he announced director's cuts for these movies before they were out. Like, there's a director's cut that's supposed to come in, what, July? For,
right.
like, or maybe for both, I can't remember. And I'm like, why are you doing this, right? So then we use that to go into Sucker Punch, a movie that you and I defend. You defended it on video.
Love it.
Many years ago in the DPC days.
I got punched in the face for it.
Yeah. But he basically wants to replicate the Snyder Cut experience. Like, he really wants that to be a thing. Like, he says he has the footage. He just needs permission to put it together and release it. But it's like, dude, you already have a director's cut of this movie. So what is this? The director's cut of the director's cut? Like, are you George Lucas or something where you have to... Like, you're worse than George Lucas. You just keep going back, right? I saw somebody in the comments say, or just make a good movie the first time.
Okay.
Now, I think he usually does. Like, you know, because I thought Sucker Punch was really good. I know a lot of people didn't. A lot of people like 300. I'm not going to hate on it here. But the thing is, I do like the director's cut of Batman vs. Superman more. It is objectively a better movie. The Snyder cut, I mean, he kind of lost, you know, tragedy happened to his family and he couldn't release it, so, you know, Whedon had to come in and do Justice League originally. So it's not really his fault. But the Snyder cut was great. But it probably wouldn't have been 4 hours if it would have been, you know, a theater thing. So he generally improves his movies, but there's still some merit to this criticism. You don't see other directors constantly being like, yeah, I want to make a new version. I want to make a new version. I want to make a new version. It's like, dude, you got to stop.
Right.
You are a lover of film. I think you get irrationally hated. While I can understand why some people don't like your movies and your style, I totally get it, but you gotta shut up. And they gotta stop interviewing him. This is what it's about. Stop talking to him so much. Because he keeps saying stuff like this where, like, a legitimate Snyder mark is like, will you please just shut up?
We move on now to Best Cinematic Beatdown of 2024 so far, and Tyler's gonna kick us off.
Alright. My pick is Transformers 1's first trailer.
Okay.
I'm not even a massive Transformers guy. It's not really my thing growing up, you know? But that trailer made me really disheartened. That beat the interest out of me for that movie. So for those who may not know, it's a cool premise. Megatron and Optimus, and I assume some of the others, are they're friends in it. You know, it's a prequel. So I assume it's going to show how they become enemies. And this could have been a really gripping, emotional movie. Because that's a tragic story, you know? Because that became a massive war. But instead, it's a movie, well, the trailer, I should say, has, like, serious, like, crappy Guardians of the Galaxy vibes. You know? Like, I wanted some seriousness, and yet they came up with this. And I remember seeing it, and I remember messaging you being like, the Transformers 1's trailer is so terrible.
Yeah.
It made this movie look really, really bad. But it's also got a little bit of the new Ninja Turtles type humor in it too, but not as good.
That was what I thought too. I was like, boy, these guys saw TMNT Mutant Mayhem and they were like, that's gonna be our movie.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, but not every movie can do that, man.
Yeah.
It's kind of a miracle that Mutant Mayhem did what they did.
Yeah, and they're digging a massive hole for this movie. And I don't know that they're gonna be able to get out of it. I gotta be honest.
That movie's gonna make money despite itself because it's a Transformers movie and they always do. But that could be where the bottom falls out.
Yeah, I cringed during the trailer. Oh, this is so bad.
And think about it, this is a franchise that at one point had giant robot testicles in this franchise. And it somehow survived that. but
Yeah.
it might not survive like Optimus Prime's teenage hijinks. Like, I'm not.
Yeah, it's especially bad coming off of the last live action movie that was surprisingly great. And then there's this, and I watched it. I meant to watch it again before today, but I didn't. I forgot, and I'm glad I didn't, honestly, because I don't know if I can take it again.
So I like how this is Transformers 1 versus Tyler's motivation to see the movie.
It literally just beat it out of me.
My choice for best cinematic beatdown of 2024 so far comes from a movie I didn't particularly enjoy, which was Immaculate.
Oh.
And it is Sydney Sweeney versus the Antichrist. So, if you haven't seen Immaculate, Sydney Sweeney plays a nun, and she is, immaculately impregnated, as the belief in the movie would have you have. And then at the end, there's actually a really, if there's any reason to watch that movie,
Oh, yeah.
there's a catacomb scene at the end, which I think is done really well. And then the ending, which is like a really impressive performance piece for Sydney Sweeney. Because she's literally just looking dead center in the camera and just like screaming for 2 consecutive minutes. And it's like, it's all in one take too. So it's just like this, I hope she didn't have to do this like 5 times. Because that's like, it's gnarly to have to do that from a performance perspective. So, and she's screaming in dead center in the camera because she's giving birth to the Antichrist. Or what this cult believes will be the Antichrist. The beatdown happens after that takes place, where the camera just kind of stays on her. And she's moving away. And in the background, you don't really see it, but you kind of see it. You just see a bunch of red. and a thing on the ground.
Yeah.
And then she gets a rock. And the beatdown occurs. Where she's got a rock and just lifts it over her head and screams again and wham. And again, it doesn't show it. It leaves it to the imagination.
Yeah.
But that's the beatdown. It's one shot. It's whack. And that's the beat. That's the best beatdown of the year because it completely one-sided, no rebuttal, wham.
That's a good pick. That's a great scene. That's a great pick.
It's the only reason to watch that movie.
There's a conversation that I hope we get to have at some point during the mid-years, but I'm not gonna say it because I don't want to, So we'll just focus on the beatdown. I mean, yeah, that's a really good beatdown. I mean, you take out the Antichrist, and it's unanswered.
It's true.
You super kicked the Antichrist with a rock. That made no sense. Why did I go that way? I guess I put the shoehorn in professional wrestling.
The Heartbreak Kid, Sydney Sweeney. Next up is the worst industry argument of 2024 so far. And this is going to be a relatively kind of brief one for me. Because it's been an ongoing argument. It isn't something that's just been confined to 2024. All right? But it has led to where we are now. And a really funny denouement, or a really funny state of being that we're at now. So to me, the worst industry argument of 2024 so far is the faster we get this movie out to the streamers, the better. Okay? So clearly, there's an impression in Hollywood that the theatrical experience is dying. And I think there's a lot of data that can be used in such a way that people can make that argument. And the idea of, I knew he was going to start writing. The idea that, well, but if we get it out to the streaming services, then it opens up this whole massive home audience, and we got to get this stuff out to, we got to do same day streaming and theatrical releases so people have a full choice. And I'm not anti-choice. This concept of the sooner we get this out to streaming platforms, the better, has led us to where we are now. Which is, you couldn't possibly begin to count the number of streaming services that there are.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
To the point that we have now done a full 360, and the streaming services are bundling themselves together. In other words, cable. Like, we have made a full 360 to where we're basically back to cable television. Well, if you pay us this X amount, boy, you can have Crave and Netflix together, and you can get Tubi with it, and you can get Hulu, and it's like, this is just cable. This is a bunch of networks all together at the same time in a package that you're paying a monthly fee for. This, to me, feels just like cable television. So the argument that really, like, where it's at now, yeah, cool, the big box office stuff is great, but let's just sell the movie to streamers. It gets it out there. Home media is awesome, and it is, but this is where it has led to where there's not just one or two or three dominant streaming services. There's 1,000,001, and you gotta have at least half of them to get all the stuff that you want. And we have now come full 360 with the streaming, I don't want to call it a narrative, but I guess it's just like the streaming concept has come around full 360. So I think this concept, this idea, this argument of let's just get it out to the streaming services as quick as we can has led us to where we are today.
I mean, that's fair enough. It was funny, we were just talking about that in regards to ads, reverting back to cable.
Yeah.
And then they're going to get mad as people torrent stuff.
Right.
But it's like, can you blame them? Like, cable ended up sucking.
Right.
Right? And then, like, streaming was pretty cool, and now it's going to suck. You know what? I think I'll just jump into mine.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to talk a little bit about your data thing, but I think this relates to what I'm about to talk about. Because I wanted him to go first at the time because I wasn't sure which route I was going to go. But I think you kind of teed me up to go with this.
Okay.
So my pick this year surrounds Furiosa. There was a tweet that kind of went, I don't know how viral it went, but viral enough in like the spheres I unfortunately am in sometimes. Do you know who the Quartering is?
No.
He's a right-wing, kind of anti-woke kind of guy, right?
Okay.
Makes videos talking about entertainment and probably other stuff too, but he's one of these people who releases multiple videos. He quoted Furiosa's box office in the first weekend, which was like the lowest of any movie release. You see this on Memorial Day
yes.
like 30 years, and which sucks. I mean, I haven't seen the movie, but that sucks. And his tweet ended with, "People are tired of female-led movies," and I thought, that's really, really dumb.
Yeah.
Right? That's really dumb. But then, I don't know if he backpedaled in a video or another tweet that I didn't see, or if it's just his audience kind of backpedaling for him, but he might have backpedaled to say female-led action movies.
Okay.
Now that has a little bit more grounds. I don't know how much of a sliver it has, like, of truth.
Mm-hmm.
But I've said in some years where it's been like, you know, it's a little harder to take a woman seriously in an action movie, beating up men. It's been done lots.
Yeah.
But it is a little tougher, right? So there's like maybe a little sliver of truth, maybe. I need someone to do a deep dive into the data concerning female-led movies, if I'm being honest. I'm focusing it more on the mockery of Furiosa that I saw, the celebration of its failure.
Right.
Because it's not doing well, right? It had a budget that is way too high. It's unless it has serious legs, I doubt that it's gonna make too much money, right? But I hate that part of it. But I also hate just that these people, all they see is their anti-woke shit. All they see is because it stars women. But you don't factor in that, one, it's a prequel. Those make less money. Mad Max Fury Road didn't make a ton of money. Like, it was decent interest. It was like $400 million or whatever.
Right.
I don't know how much compared to its budget. It might not have made much. But we're only going to go by consumer interest here, which means money put in, not money versus budget. Because that's a different argument, right? Something could be a flop, but still, like a $400 movie that's really expensive, making $800 million is still like not great, but like that still demonstrates $800 million worth pumped into it. So it's like serious interest, right? The movie was rated R. It's almost 2.5 hours. And then to kind of tie into what you were saying about theaters and streaming, the industry has changed to the point that Furiosa, I'm pretty sure, is scheduled to come out on streaming or whatever, or digital in like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So you can just wait. And a lot of movies are like that. And they think and they go back to, it's because it's female-led. It's like, everybody who saw Furiosa loved it.
Right.
All right? And I know that they'd be like, yeah, but not many people went to see it. It's like, okay, sure. But like, it's not because it's women. All right? The industry has been declining box office-wise even before the pandemic. Okay? Like, I'm going to only talk domestically, because that's the only thing I can kind of pull, like, numbers. I don't know about worldwide. They were at $1,600 million back in, like, I don't know, 2004. Don't quote me on the exact dates or numbers here, right? 16 million yearly, right? Then somewhere we got down to 13 before the pandemic. So it was already declining. It's just it was still making quite a bit. Then something happened in 2020. I don't know what. And then... But we are slowly crawling back up. We are at like almost $9 billion last year, which is still a decline. And I don't really begrudge somebody saying that the theater experience is dying, because it might be. Although people don't often talk about how it is slowly going up. I don't know what this year's going to be like. It might be dying, but they don't point, like, somebody doesn't point to that as a primary reason that just nobody's going to movies. In general, it's female-led. So I did just a little bit of research. I'm going to have to read something here.
Sure.
Tons of male-led movies flop. But I'm going to talk specifically about action movies, because that's what Furiosa is. Well, you know, sci-fi too, but like an action movie, right? This is 2024 so far. The Fall Guy didn't do well at all. Argyle, and there's like other people in Argyle, but Henry Cavill is all over the marketing for Argyle, so like you can include that by that logic as a male-led movie. The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare didn't do well. Land of Bad didn't do well. Boy Kills World didn't do well. Monkey Man isn't a flop because it was like a $10 million budget and it made $30 million worldwide, so it's probably not a flop. But it's only $30 million, so it's not like people were flocking to the theaters for it, right? I'm sure The Crow probably won't do super well, right? And then you want to go back to 2023. Here are some. The Flash, Shazam 2, The Creator, Plane, 65, The Covenant, Silent Night, Sisu. None of those did super amazing, right? Male-led. Right. And that's if you don't count Ant-Man and the Wasp or Indiana Jones, because they have important women too. Because like Ant-Man didn't set the world on fire, right? So they just pick these movies and go, it's only because of women. And they focus it as like the top reason. Right. I don't doubt that there might be a little bit of a sliver just somewhere. Yes. I don't know. I don't know. This is why I want somebody to just actively, like, I was going to, but I was like, that's way too much work to try to get box offices and all this other shit, right? Anyway, that's...
Well, I mean, people that make that argument are already preaching to the choir, because they're preaching to people who might actually be predisposed to be like, well, I'm not going to go see Furiosa because that's led by a woman, and I'm a man, and I have dingles, and I like to see other people with dingles in the movies and punching and doing man things. So yeah, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, because they're already preaching to the 20 dudes in a group of 500 who might actually be like that. So yeah, okay, sure.
They just overstate it.
They do.
Like, I'm pretty reasonable sometimes, right? And I'm willing to concede that there might be some degree of truth to it. I'm not co-signing it. I'm just saying there might be, right? So if anybody watches this and gets mad, it's like, I'm not necessarily saying that it is, but I'm also not necessarily saying that it isn't to some degree. It's just the amount of focus they put on that. Because they go, well, look at the Marvels. It's like, okay, sure. But, like, Captain Marvel did really, really well. So it's like, you guys just, what you just want to keep pointing to movies? Because guess what? Lots of movies aren't doing well.
Right. In a continuation from 2023, everyone can get it.
Everyone's getting it.
Up next, we have the mid-year award for Nostalgia Made This Bad Movie Good. And we're going to have Tyler kick us off.
I think this one is interesting because I seem to remember you making a tweet about something regarding this, if I'm remembering correctly. So let's go in. My pick is Lisa Frankenstein.
Ooh. Okay.
I mean, I'm just gonna
fucking 80s style.
Right up front, it's because of Diablo Cody.
Yep.
Right? That's why. I really like Juno. All right? I'm a defender of the script, and I have been, because people be like, oh, the dialogue is weird, but it kind of was like teenagers talk in weird ways with their own lingo. And yes, this is not dramatized, but like more creative dialogue in the same way that, say, like a Tarantino. I'm not saying it's as good, but I'm just saying as like a Tarantino kind of, you know. So I like Diablo Cody, honestly. She's a talented writer, and I didn't come out of this thinking it was a bad movie per se. But then I thought about it, and I thought, it's an unfunny comedy with an ineffective romance and an unscary horror. So by all metrics, it's kind of a bad movie, right? It fails at everything it sets out to do in a sense, and yet I liked it, like mildly, right? Yeah. Like maybe like a 5.5 out of 10. I don't know. I don't remember what it. And it made me think, why? It's because I want to like a Diablo Cody movie, because I have nostalgia for when she came on with Juno and she did Jennifer's Body, which I don't think I gave enough credit to back in the day. I was a little more lukewarm on that. It's kind of become a cult movie. I feel like that's the type of movie I should rewatch, but I'm not going to because there's so many things to watch. So I guess I could just end it here that nostalgia for Diablo Cody made this bad movie good. Yeah.
That's fair. That's a really nice angle on that too, and I'm glad Lisa Frankenstein got mentioned. Yeah, that's I think so. The tweet that you're referencing was, I was talking about how like Diablo Cody does not make widely appealing movies, and this guy like crawled up my butt and like made an apartment in there because he was like wildly defending.
He squatted in your anus.
He did, and it was like, I'm not saying anything negative about Diablo Cody. I'm saying Diablo Cody doesn't make widely appealing movies.
How did Juno actually do box office? I know it got love.
The person cited what the box office was. And they're like, and that was at this time, and in this, and it only opened in this many theaters, and da-da-da, and I'm like, dude, I am not Diablo Cody's biographer, I made a tweet.
And also, since then, like, Tully didn't set the world on fire.
No.
Jennifer's Body's only a cult, classic, so, like, you're not wrong. Like, Juno might have been more successful. Right. Fine.
If I would have made a tweet that said Diablo Cody sucks at her job, then I would understand why this guy would get awfully defensive.
Like, I actually like her vision.
All I was saying was, like, Diablo Cody doesn't make Transformers. Although, you know what? Considering we're going to get Transformers 1, a Diablo Cody Transformers movie might not be so bad.
Yeah, she's one of the... honestly, she's one of the few writers in Hollywood where I think, oh, she's attached. Let's give this a shot, right? Because, you know, Lisa Frankenstein wasn't amazing, but, you know, it was what it was. Yeah. So that's my pick.
My selection this year for Nostalgia Made This Bad Movie Good, and I'm kind of taking this award as an opportunity. Like, this particular award can be like a hot take machine. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So it's going to be my hot take machine, because I'm going with Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, a movie that a lot of people did not like.
I consider this was in my rough version of my document. Yeah.
So here's the thing, where like movies like that are getting, I think, like, kind of rightly criticized as like just like being sort of cheap nostalgia plays, because let's just bring back all the characters from the old movies and let's just kind of throw them all together on screen at one time, and we'll get some box office out of it. And I can, in a sense, totally get that argument, even especially when it comes to a movie like this. But to me, the nostalgia plays in that movie aren't worn out yet.
Right.
Maybe if there's a third one, which I assume there probably will be, if there's a third one, maybe I'll feel differently. Because if they do it again and have it be like, it's the third time we're bringing all the still living Ghostbusters back, and McKenna Grace's character is the daughter of this character who's not here anymore, and whatever. So it's if you do that a third time, then maybe even for me it might be like, yeah, okay, this is starting to lean on me a little bit. But like, the nostalgia plays are not worn out for me at all, and basically those movies give me exactly what I'm looking for from those movies. Like, it gives me, like, it feels like a Ghostbusters movie. So on that sense, I think objectively that movie's probably not great, but nostalgia for the tone and the fun of Ghostbusters movies, I feel like it brings those back, and that's kind of what gave it a bump for me into what I would call a critic or green spectrum review, which is like, around like a 7 out of 10 or whatever it wound up being. This feels like it can be a hot take machine. My hot take is I liked Ghostbusters, so Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is my choice.
Yeah, I realized after I said that I had this written down, I had it written down for something else. But whatever. I like your logic. I didn't like the movie. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to add that people, when the all-female one came out, they said, hey, we want the old guys back, and now we got the old guys back, and now they're
like, nostalgia.
So it's like, I don't know what you want,
what
right?
do people want?
Like, it didn't really work for me. I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it, so I'll just leave it at that. But I do enjoy your logic. It makes total sense.
So then it's like, what's the next step? Is the next step complete reboot with brand new male characters? Because you can't make it all female, or people will get mad. I don't know. Up next is the best debut character of 2024. I will kick this one off, and I wanted to go with a character who I think we could maybe see more from in the future. Like, obviously a character from a movie that I really liked, but again, like, I think the door is kind of open that maybe we could see more in the future. So my pick this year is going to be Kid from Monkey Man. So obviously it's the Dev Patel, the main character, and there's so much about Monkey Man that I really, really dug. Like, Dev Patel directs it as well, and just the arc of this guy basically going from, like, just kind of lost in the shuffle of this kind of modern Indian culture where there's a wide divide between have and have not, and the arc of the character from just trying to survive by moonlighting as a guy in the fighting pits basically, to taking on the entire like socio-religious political structure of India and of this community. And then I think the movie takes place in Delhi, but I can't
in a Delhi?
recall for sure. Delhi, damn it, with an H. So just the character's arc from that, and of course how they tie it into the story of Hanuman. And I really liked that character's arc through the whole movie. And again, I would really like to see more come out of the Monkey Man universe. So I'm going to choose Kid.
I don't really have much to add to that.
No?
All right, well, I don't really have a ton to add there. So I'm just going to go into mine. I'm going to go with Robot from Robot Dreams.
Okay, right on.
So, Robot gets ordered by Dog and shows up in the mail or whatever, and to be his friend, maybe his lover, because they hold hands, but it's never really expressly.
Right.
I just kind of took it as friends. Nothing is ever said in this movie. It's like, they don't. There's no dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
But Robot is expressive and smiles a lot but also going along with what Dog is doing, because like he's just a robot. You know, he's compelling because he understands like human connection through observing it, because obviously the robot and the dog are meant to represent humans, obviously, right?
Yep.
Because I don't think there's robots strolling around with dogs, but you never know, right? Because he reacts to things based on how he knows to react, because he watches it. And this characterization actually has a fair bit to say about its subject matter, which is connection, loneliness, friendship, and how we're basically social animals ourselves.
Yeah.
And Robot Dog's an interesting character too, like, to be honest, but Robot is a really compelling, emotional character without ever having to actually say anything, because like the animation is so vibrant and so expressive. Just a really well written and well animated character with a cool story arc. Yeah, so Robot from Robot Dreams, a cheater pick, I'm pretty sure, but a great movie. So
up next we have the best genre of film of 2024 so far. We'll have Tyler start off.
So I talked about the genre a little earlier when we were reminiscing about our theater memories. But I'm going with romance.
Ooh, wow. Okay.
Okay, listen. I'm going to read a lot, but there's only 4 movies in this genre that I've seen, so it's kind of easier to get a higher average. And really, I just kind of average everything out, and then I just kind of look at the movies and I make a decision. But the first thing I always see is the average. But I also love this pick because who would have thunk it? Even your reaction was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because,
like, wait a minute, really?
Yeah. The reality is this pick is driven largely because I legitimately think that both Molly and Max in the Future and Challengers are lovely movies. And while Challengers is like kind of a sports, but it's like a romance movie. And then Molly and Max is like sci-fi, but it's ultimately a romance movie. But romance is at the heart of both. I mean, with Molly and Max, it's in the title. With Challengers, you either believe that it's a love triangle / messed up romance between Zendaya and 2 dudes. Or that the 3 of them are in love with tennis, which is also a form of romance, right?
I like that. Okay.
And then you have, like, The Idea of You, which is surprisingly solid, like, not amazing. And even at its worst, with one other movie, I still rated that a 5.5 out of 10, so no stinkers.
Right.
And do I think that I'm going to see, there's going to be a deluge of amazing romance movies at the end of the year that I'll still think that this was the best genre? No.
Right.
But I thought this year I would be a man and pick romance.
Plus, I mean, Dune 2, there's romance in Dune 2.
Yeah.
Romance amongst the sand.
Alright, if you want to twist it that way, we can throw Dune Part 2 in there. You know how I love to break things. Yeah, screw it, Dune 2 is a romance movie. Sci-fi, what's that?
So my selection in 2024 for best genre is, I kind of had to go to a little bit of a subgenre, but I felt strongly enough about it that I had to go for it. And it's not horror, but it's supernatural.
Okay.
Supernatural films. Because we're talking about The King Tide, Abigail, which Abigail is a horror movie, but it's a horror movie within like a supernatural construct, right? The First Omen, Lisa Frankenstein. You could put Ghostbusters Frozen Empire in there, obviously. You could even put a movie like Hundreds of Beavers. There's a supernatural aspect to Hundreds of Beavers. It even describes itself as a supernatural epic. So I think, like,
okay,
when you take the solid string of movies there that all at the very least have an element of the supernatural in them. There's also been some stinkers that has an element of the supernatural in them, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But I think that subgenre of film so far this year has a strong enough Murderer's Row, especially at the beginning there, that I had to go with supernatural as the genre to beat so far this year.
Yeah, I can't remember every movie you said there, but I don't know if there was any movies in there that I outright hated. But then if you throw in Hundreds of Beavers in there, that puts the average up so high that it's like, yeah, okay, I wouldn't have picked that until you mentioned Hundreds of Beavers. I'm like, well, if this is the way we're going.
If that counts, then sure.
Then all right, I got at you, and I love that because of that, right? Because I was with you, right? It's funny because it kind of harkens back to the first time best genre was ever included, because you chose, like, I think coming of age, like a subgenre.
Yeah.
So, like, kind of harkening back unintentionally, probably to the first ever best genre. I like that pick. Good job.
Nice. Up next is the story or premise that deserved better so far in 2024. I'm going to start things off with this one, and I'm going to go with ISS. So the movie that takes place on the International Space Station, and as American and Russian astronauts are on the International Space Station, war breaks out down on Earth. And they can see it. They see it as it happens. Nuclear weapons going off. And they're just like, oh my God, is that a volcano? And then it just like all start going off like, oh my God, oh my God. And they each get instruction from their governments to take control of the ISS by any means necessary. And the reason I didn't dislike ISS.
I liked it.
I enjoyed the movie, but I felt like there was so much more that this movie could have done to build the dread of that situation. I understand that they had to take time at the beginning of the movie to set the atmosphere, because not everybody knows what the atmosphere is on the International Space Station. So I get that. You got to build that. No problem. You got to introduce your characters. No problem. The thing happens, and the movie goes on as it does, and it ends the way it does, and none of it is bad. But I'm just thinking, like, man, an extra 10 minutes in there after the things start to happen and after they get the instructions. Just 10 minutes in there where nothing happens. The characters are just sitting with the gravity of what they've been given. And I felt like they could have done so much more to build that dread and build towards that crescendo towards the top of the movie. So I had to admit that while I enjoyed it, I was somewhat let down by, because I was just hoping that it built and built and built and built, and it had this roaring crescendo that we didn't really get. What we got was still good, because again, it's you're talking about like 6 people on an island. And it's like, it's 3-on-3, and somebody's going to survive, and somebody's not going to survive. And it felt like it could have built to so much more, and I just felt like it didn't do that. So I felt like that premise deserved better while we still got good stuff.
Yeah, I can't remember what I rated the movie off the top of my head. I'm not going to bother looking, but that was basically I'll say, good movie that had serious potential to be a great movie, like a top 15 with a premise like that. So I agree that I didn't really consider it, but yeah, I agree with your point too. They should have taken a little more time. That's one of the few movies where it would have been beneficial to add time, like you said.
Yeah,
because you and I criticize movies sometimes. You're too long.
Right.
Like, even a 2-hour movie sometimes, like, you didn't need to even be 2 hours, right? I don't know how long this one was, but yeah, I would have taken some extra time to kind of expand on all that. So I think that's a good pick.
It sticks out in my head that this movie, I think, was 102 minutes. So you're talking about an hour 42, which is like a nice sweet spot, I think, for a movie. But this is like one of those rare occasions where, like, you know what? If this movie would have been an hour 53 and you'd have spent those extra 10 minutes in there, I'd have been totally good with it.
I agree. So, Justin, I did this before in one of the mid-years, but I'm going to allow you to do my pick for me.
Ooh, okay.
Because I'm not going to do this every year with the mid-years, but this will probably happen over the years, because I kind of like this. And you seem to like it too. So, do you want to hear me talk probably more extensively, I should say, about kind of culture war stuff in regards to a movie? Or do you want to hear me just kind of just talk about the movie as a movie, and that'll be a lot shorter and like kind of less serious?
Okay. Give it to me.
What?
Give me the big one.
The culture war?
Give me the big one.
All right, here we go. So my pick is the American Society of Magical Negroes.
Oh no. Oh no. Give me the other one. No, go ahead.
For the record, the other one is Ricky Stenicki. Because I like that premise a lot.
Right, fair enough. Actually, you know what? I 100% agree with this. Go ahead.
With the American side.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, assuming I think you're gonna go where you're going.
Well, maybe I don't know. We'll see. I'm gonna be reading a lot on this one because there's a lot of notes. So basically, a dramedy rather, about the magical Negro trope, a black guy meant to serve white people. That has potential.
Totally.
Seriously, it does. Like, it really does. I gave the premise the benefit of the doubt, and maybe in the hands of someone with balls, this could have been great. Hell, it has a great title.
Damn.
I love the title. You get people in, right? And then maybe you can hit them with the nuance and complexity, only it doesn't.
Right.
The movie flirts with nuance, says corporations' virtue signal with diversity. It touches on it. It touches on the fear that black people feel that the movie constantly reminds us of. There's room for exploration there. Even though emotions are kind of generally not good representations of what's actually going on in the world. But when a group or person feels something, it's worth exploring why.
Yes. It
touches on meritocracy a bit, right? But then it does nothing with like actual things that are interesting. This is where it's gonna get inflammatory. Okay. I don't throw this criticism out very often. I really don't, because I kind of hate the conversation when people do this. But I think this movie's racist towards white. I actually think it is legitimately racist. And not just towards whites, but also blacks. It's like the bigotry of low expectations, victimhood, like infantilizing them.
Right.
There's a line where the one guy who's kind of helping the protagonist, now I haven't seen it since it came out, so bear with me here. But I did write some stuff down. He says to the protagonist, "What's the most dangerous animal on the planet? White people." And I'm like, and he goes on to say that their fear discomfort makes them that way. And this is vile and racist. Right? And there's no growth for this character either. There's no real growth to the movie in that way, which is the problem. Like, you could have somebody say something vile, and then he kind of grows out of it. It's like, okay, well, maybe I went a little too far. But this movie exists in a context where it's completely fine to just straight up throw out those lines and never correct them. I don't remember there being a moment of redemption, although maybe somebody saw it will point to something, but I remember literally watching it and being, there's just no whatever. Because in this universe, that is a fact. That, and it panders to the most useless, terrible parts of racial social commentary. It just yells at white people for not listening and calls them dangerous, even though all we do is listen, right? And these types of conversations, or movies rather, make it even harder to have a real conversation about race. And you know what the thing is? I don't hate this movie as a movie. I find it kind of funny sometimes. And I think that it does have some heart in, like, the main character. I can't remember the actor's name now, but I see him in more of these. This movie, this premise, could have been so good and so nuanced if it was somebody who wasn't stuck in the Hollywood machine churning out the same racist stuff towards whites and also blacks, which it doesn't realize it's doing, of course, because it thinks it's, like, empowering them.
Right.
And the trope is worth exploring. But the problem is I knew from the trailer when I first saw it that it wasn't going to be good. But I really hoped that I would have went into it and been like, you know what? This was smart. But it's not. It's dumb.
And it's funny because, like, when you make the point at the beginning that, like, the title of this movie is good, the premise of this movie is good, or what this premise could explore is good, to the point that, like, when we did the movie draft, I drafted this movie, and then I saw the trailer and I promptly traded it away because I'm like, this is not going to go in a direction that is going to be good.
Right. And I understand I'm a white person, so not your audience. Because I've said this before, your audience is smart.
Exactly.
But there would be people who see it like, oh, he's white. But it's like, that's not the point.
Right.
I just really had hoped for really good social commentary, because really that's the point of this movie, right?
Yes.
Like, it is built into its DNA. Like, no, you cannot miss that this is about black experiences. Okay, fine. But you gotta do better than this. If you want to get people on board, you gotta do better.
So we shift focus slightly now and go to the character who deserved a better movie in 2024. And we're going to have Tyler kick things off with this one.
All right. I'm going to pick Madame Web in Madame Web.
Oh, that's a good choice.
Straight up, she's just a cool character. I'm not a comic expert. I should probably have let off with that. I just kind of read a little bit about the character afterwards, so sorry, comic book fans. She's a mutant who works as a medium in the comics, but also mostly a support character with cool psychological powers. And then on top of that, Dakota Johnson deserved better. So it's kind of like a person and a character that deserved better.
You could tell Dakota Johnson deserved better during the filming of the movie.
Yeah. She's something though in the interviews. Like, I kind of love her.
I think she is great.
Yeah. Well, we've kind of been saying that since 50 Shades.
Yeah.
Where we straight up just said she's not the problem.
She's not the problem here.
No. And do I think she's the most amazing actress ever? No. But like, she's good. I like Dakota Johnson. I look forward. I got a movie queued up, Am I Okay, that I'm gonna watch that stars her.
Right.
That I've been looking forward to. Madame Web should have just been old from the get-go and crippled like she's like she's known to be in the comics. And to be honest, the movie should have broken the superhero mold and gone with something like psychological thriller or even horror in some cases, because it kind of flirts with horror a little bit.
Yes.
And Madame Web would have been so good had she just been kind of an old, crippled up psychological, mutant put in like a more psychological movie instead of being in a bland superhero movie with some punchy that doesn't really do much with her, right? Because she sounds really cool in the comics. Like, I'm not saying I've read the comics. I've just read some stuff about her. I thought, she sounds really cool. And there's so much potential if they would have flipped the genre and made her old. Of course, I mean, she gets into being more crippled, crippled at the end or whatever. But I don't think we didn't need the origin of it. We just you know what I mean. So I just think there was untapped potential in Madame Web's character that unfortunately we probably will never get now because nobody likes that movie.
Right. I mean, until they just fast track it into the MCU, because that movie stopped short of begging to get fast tracked into the MCU.
I mean, if she shows up in some other movie as a support character as an old woman,
it's the multiverse. Anything can happen.
That would be great. I'd be totally into that.
My selection for person or character who deserved better in 2024, after he had a stellar 2023, is my boy Godzilla. So I want to say I enjoyed Godzilla Kong: The New Empire. I don't dislike Kong, but I'm a Team Godzilla guy. Godzilla in this movie, triple powers up to the point that I'm pretty sure he could blow up the planet if he wanted to. And ultimately, all he gets to do is have a little bit of punchy and break up some rain clouds. And I'm like, why did you spend all this time going yo, I don't know what Godzilla's doing. He's bombing her. He just killed that guy in cold blood. He's powered up. He's purple now. And all the marketing, you see the purple Godzilla. And it's oh shoot, he's purple now. That's a level of power that the North American audience has never seen before, because we haven't watched the 5,000 Godzilla movies that exist. Don't know what that means. Oh man, this is gonna lead to some huge giant crescendo, and then he breaks up some rain clouds. And I'm huh? I think I even said it at the end of the movie out loud. I was huh? Is that all he gets to? Because if you think about it, you go back to Godzilla 2014. He gets that great moment where he just grabs the dude and he opens his mouth and he just fires that to rip him apart. And I'm that's a Godzilla finish.
Yeah, and I can talk extensively about Godzilla versus Kong, where I think it's perfect booking for Godzilla, as well. So there's that too. And
they have that battle, and he gets to show okay, maybe they're both. Maybe this is a heel program, and neither one of these guys are all that great, but they have a definitive winner in that battle, but he still shows him mercy, and they can be bros, kind of.
Yeah.
Like, you get that moment, and then in Godzilla X Kong, they make such a big deal of powering him up, and this is going to be huge, and he doesn't get a moment that's anywhere near that. And I understand that this was a Kong-centric movie, and that's fine. And I don't begrudge the movie that. Again, I enjoy the movie. But especially with all that build-up, and again, coming off of a year where we just had Godzilla -1, I just felt like Godzilla deserved more. And that's why he's going to be my choice.
You took my point in the final hour there.
Oh, damn!
I had one thing to contribute, so I'm going to say it anyway.
Right.
It was a lot of build for what ultimately ended up becoming a Kong movie.
Yeah. Up next is the movie trope that needs to die. And we've seen this happen multiple times in movies this year for mine. And I think I have a chef's kiss choice for this. Okay. So, you're watching a fight scene. Let's imagine that we're in a fight.
Am I getting punched?
No. So, I'm over top of you, and I'm choking you.
And I'm a little turned on.
Don't ruin the moment for just let me give me 5 more seconds.
I'm having my own moment.
Imagine it. I've been waiting 25 years to do this. No, okay, so I'm choking you. You've got your hands. You're trying to fight me off, right? And then all of a sudden, you stop and you're reaching for an item to bash my head with.
Yeah.
After the only reason that you are still conscious is you're doing this. But it's apparently okay to just take both of your hands away so that you can reach for something off screen. I am not a medical professional.
Or professional.
Or professional anything. Except that's the name of my fantasy football league. But I digress. You know what happens if that is happening and your hands are in there stopping it and you take your hands away? Guess what happens next? Fight over. Neck broken. It's I never realized it until I realized how bad I hated it. Because now I see it and I wanna the screen. I want a raspberry at any movie, and it's happened like 3 times this year.
I'm trying to think. I know there's a movie that I saw, but I can't pull it.
I saw it. It happened in Somewhere Quiet. It happens. I think it happens in It happens in Monkey Man. Definitely, at least once. I believe it happens in. It might happen in Madame Web. Where it's just like, oh my god, I'm getting choked, I'm about to pass out. That's okay, I can just move my hands and reach for the knife that's over here conveniently.
Yeah.
And this is don't worry, this is fine. It's like, it's the worst wrestling match you've ever seen. Because I get the feeling there's a degree of cooperation that's going on here. And it kind of has taken me out of the moment of this fight scene. So that to me is the trope that needs to die. The whole like, oh my god, I'm about to die. Don't worry though, I got 10 more seconds. Let's find the thing over here. I think everyone has stopped realizing how little goddamn sense this makes. So if we can just stop doing that in fight scenes, I'm all for it.
Yeah, think of something better. So you know something I've always disliked in movies, for the most part?
What's that?
It's my pick. Dream sequences.
Okay.
Now, obviously, there are exceptions. Last year had Dream Scenario,
right,
where it was like the whole idea. That's great. I love that.
How that works.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Oh, that was perfect. Like, that was an amazing movie. But most of the time when I see a dream sequence, I kind of end up just groaning afterwards. Because people can have something really insane and interesting happen, then they get up and it's like, oh crap, it was only a dream.
Yeah.
And it's a way to examine their psychology and what's going on, but it just always feels like there's a better way they could have done it. So, case in point, Imaginary begins with one.
Right.
Right? So, it's worse in a horror movie because the genre is flexible. You can literally play with environments and otherworldly creatures and all this other nonsense. So you don't need dream sequences to have something weird happen, right?
Right.
And then in other movies where dream sequences happen, you probably don't need it. You can plot out someone having dreams, but usually just lazy, like in Imaginary. And in Imaginary, it's just a cheap jump scare. Like, that's all really the whole point of it, and it sucked. But, like, I'd even take, like, in medias res, where it'd be, like, you know, skip ahead to a scarier part in the movie, and then do, like, as the beginning, and then just do, like, 1 week earlier. I don't know that that's ideal, but I would have taken that over a dream sequence.
Right.
To start the movie. I was like, oh, this is starting off really cool. Dream sequence. Right? There was just almost always a better way to plot and develop your characters in a stupid dream sequence that automatically takes everything away. Oh, we having another dream again? Yeah, it was a movie, so I figured we should.
I'm in a movie, so I figured we needed a dream sequence.
Because, like, because most people don't want to hear you talk about your dreams in real life. so then it's like, in a movie, I also don't want that, right? Like, dreams can be, like, kind of interesting to talk about when they're really messed up in, like, real life. But these people who are, like, every day, it's like, I had this dream. It's like, okay, shut up.
Right.
Like, it's just chill. And, like, every time I see a dream sequence in a movie, I'm just kind of like, and I beat this one, I picked this one over the other one just because it's bothered me for so many years. Yep, my other pick was the comedy Soy Boy. You know, you always have, like, these, like, vegan or insert, you know, soy boy stuff where it's like the jokes are never funny.
Yeah,
so that was my other pick, but I picked dream sequences just because this has been, like, a long feud that I've had with the movies.
Moving right along, folks, we come to the best opening scene or sequence from 2024, and we're going to have Tyler kick us off with this one.
All right, mine goes to The Beekeeper.
Ooh, okay.
This is the single most important scene of the year. So basically what happens, Statham shows up. You meet this older woman who ends up getting scammed. And then when Statham shows back up again, because he's, like, close to this woman, you find out that she killed herself because of getting scammed. And that's a reason enough to pick the opening scene, because it shows people that there's, like, these scammers. I mean, everyone knows of scams, but it kind of shines light on the fact that old people get scammed all the time, repeatedly, by these idiots. But if you want to extend the scene, like, maybe 25 minutes, so it's like a whole friggin' opening sequence, he then goes and kills them.
Right.
And that's really satisfying. And that 25 minutes or so of the movie is like a great short film. But even if you take out the part where he goes and gets revenge for, I just think that's a hugely important scene. And from the moment the movie started, I was like, damn. I was like, okay. I'm like, wasn't really expecting this, but that's cool.
My selection this year for best opening scene for 2024, I mean, there was one opening scene that I saw this year that I was just like, what the hell am I even watching? And that was Hundreds of Beavers. Like, that opening in Hundreds of Beavers where you have John Kayak, who's real, juxtaposed over a bunch of animated fur traders while they're all just getting drunk off of Applejack rum, and two beavers just sneak up behind everybody and chew out the supports of the two Applejack stills so that they fall over and destroy everything and basically just leave John Kayak in abject poverty. But it's this Charlie Chaplin short film of this dude just, like, dancing and getting drunk while a vague, like, there's a song playing and there's words in the song, but it's almost like AI wrote the song. Because, like, all of these are words in the English language, but I don't really feel like they fit together to tell a story. They're just kind of there. And like, no other opening this year hit me so hard where I was just like, I don't even know what I'm looking at. Like, I don't, like, this makes no sense, but I am so invested. I'm so in. So the opening scene to Hundreds of Beavers, easily my favorite opening of the year.
Yeah, I don't go much to add. I kind of remember the beginning, but not really at this point.
I know this also isn't an award where we do honorable mentions, but I was so close to taking the very, 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 pre-studio stinger portion of the opening to Dune 2, where it just has a Harkonnen, I think, just going, like, you get that, like, modulated, like, and it just says power over spice is power over all. I was like, that's such a, yes, let's go. So I was so close to taking that. So if there's an honorable mention, it would go to that. But yeah.
You know what? I'll throw in an honorable mention for you.
Sure.
From Irina's Vow, where she's tending to the wounded as she learns that Poland has fallen, and then as she's walking away from the beds, there's like an explosion in the wall beside her, and she's just like,
yes.
She's just like freaked right out.
Yeah.
That was like my honorable mention.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's a great opening.
That is good. I like that. Up next is the Mid-Year's 2024 award for the best soundtrack so far this year, and my selection for this is going to go to Lisa Frankenstein. This like
I don't remember it.
goth, this like synthy goth pop with like the like some licensed 80s music in there for sure, but this is more so for the original soundtrack to this, which I have to shout out. It's Isabella Summers who did the soundtrack for this, and it was just a soundtrack that perfectly encapsulated, like, you hear this soundtrack and you think, boy, this would be a great soundtrack for a Diablo Cody movie. And it is. It feels very much like, it so fit the tone of that movie. And I feel like and it's going to be weird to say this because, like, you think of, like, these big monumentous soundtracks like Dune 2 and Furiosa and like, these big soundtracks that are going to be nominated for awards. No, I'm going to give it to Lisa Frankenstein because I just feel like that original soundtrack fits that movie so perfectly well. I almost went with Monkey Man in this too because I also, same deal, the original soundtrack for Monkey Man I really, really enjoyed, but I, kind of 1A, 1B, but I went with Lisa Frankenstein.
I don't remember the soundtrack. No. I wish I did. Maybe I'll have to give it a listen when I get home or something. That's a good pick. And, okay, so I'll go into mine. And because you kind of gave an honorable mention, I'm going to give an honorable mention. Okay, so my honorable mention is Robot Dreams. I have to talk about it. So it uses a mixture of original music and, music for the movie. But really I considered it because of its usage of the song September by Earth, Wind & Fire. Because it's used multiple times, and it's the biggest music moment in a movie for me so far this year. Like, it's a good song, obviously. It's not one that I bump, until really I saw this movie, because now it, like, recontextualizes the song, and now I associate it with the movie. And it does this by putting so much emphasis and character development and plot on this song. It's important to robot and dogs bonding. It's important to the story. And it's hugely important to the payoff at the end. I'm going with Challengers.
Okay.
It's another Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross joint. And I always got to make sure I don't say Atticus Finch. Because for some reason, every time I see Atticus, I want to say Finch.
Right.
Two completely different people. This movie relied so heavily on its tone and the soundtrack, and it's impossible to miss the soundtrack. It is all over it. It is the biggest character in the entire film.
Oh wow!
Like, by far. Like, and I don't even blame the director for doing it because he's like, yo, I got a banger soundtrack by two dudes who are making some of the finest movie soundtracks. And I see this as a guy who doesn't love Nine Inch Nails. Mm-hmm. I don't love Trent Reznor, but I love Trent Reznor doing this. Yeah. Doing, like, movie soundtrack, like, consistently just slaps.
It feels like every time there's a really good one, we wind up pointing it out.
Yeah, I actually sit, like this one, I actually sit and have listened to it outside of the movie. Mm-hmm. And the way the soundtrack is incorporated to express the themes and even the kind of the silliness of people who only talk about tennis is really awesome. It's like the movie itself and the soundtrack kind of knows that it's silly, but also you're like, does it though? Right. And it's like, it's such a driving song, and like the theme plays multiple times with, I think there's like a variation of it too, and it's so good. It's just, the soundtrack just like it's just all over it. Like, it's a great soundtrack. Another great soundtrack from Reznor and Ross. Nice. Who will make more great soundtracks in the future. Probably always be in consideration for this for me.
100%.
So, yeah, Challengers is the best soundtrack so far.
Up next, we have the Aha Moment Award for Best Plot Twist of 2024, and Tyler's going to start us off.
All right, I'm going to go with Boy Kills World. Mm-hmm. This came pretty late. I watched the movie May 23rd. Do we give spoiler-free or spoilers? Which way do you want to go with this? Because I kind of wrote down both.
Okay.
Just to have, because I didn't know, because it's early in the year. I don't know if it should ruin.
I'm going to probably go spoiler-free as much as possible.
All right. So the movie is pretty comedic and serious for a lot of it, but there's a plot twist later on that recontextualizes the violence completely while basically injecting it with its emotional oomph. Okay. And it stops being comedic in tone. I mean, like, the guy's quest for vengeance stems from his sister getting killed by the totalitarian regime on the day of the culling, which basically kills criminals in public, basically. But I didn't really feel it until the twist. I'm not saying that's an original plot twist. And maybe some people would have seen it coming, but I guess I was invested enough in the movie up until that point to be a little bit shocked by it. It just, like I said, it just kind of adds the emotional oomph to it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a really great plot twist. So I'll just leave it at that. There'd be more to say, but I don't want to spoil anything, so.
My selection in 2024 for the aha moment, the best plot twist, it's not even necessarily, I guess, a plot twist. It kind of is. It's definitely a really sharp kind of 180 moment. It comes from The King Tide. The King Tide, actually an Atlantic-Canadian movie, has the distinction of being the last movie that I saw at our theater. And, really a pretty tidy piece of cinema, honestly. And this moment, it's a climactic, it's like the climactic moment of the movie. And it's a callback to something that happens earlier in the movie. So again, I don't super want to spoil it, but there's a moment in the movie where Isla, who's the main character, who is, a little girl who basically washes up on the shore of this island. She has some kind of supernatural power, basically, where all of a sudden there's plentiful fish all the time, and everyone on the island is getting healthier, and no one gets sick, and it becomes this, like, idyllic little community. But there's a moment where Isla's like out with one of the children, and the kid's getting attacked by bees.
Not the bees.
Exactly, I think they're bees. And the kid's like, Isla, help me. And Isla kind of gets mad, and all of a sudden, like, she has this moment where she kind of just screams. She'll close her eyes, she screams. She opens her eyes, and all the bees are dead. It's a very moment. And that kind of sets in motion, it's kind of the crux of the plot as it goes.
Yeah.
Then you have, at the end of the movie, you have a climactic moment that's kind of a callback to that. I don't want to spoil it because it is such a great
because moment. You've focused so much on this movie that I think I'm going to watch it.
Right. So there's a climactic moment that is a callback to that just sends the whole narrative of the movie in like a complete 180. It really was like one of the moments in cinema this year that like hit me like a ton of bricks when it happened. And that's the way I'm going to go with this. I'm going to give it to The King Tide, the climactic moment with Isla, the callback to earlier in the movie, and it is a seismic moment in that movie. So we're gonna go with that for the aha moment, the best plot twist. Only 2 miscellaneous awards left, and I think this one is probably going to be, you just mentioned off camera that yours is short, mine's going to be short too. This is the thing in cinema in 2024 that made you happy, at least so far in 2024. I'm going to kick things off this time, and with me, it was beavers. There were hundreds of them. Nothing made me happier than watching hundreds of beavers and being like, those are grown men in beaver suits. And it just made me so happy. Like, this should not work. This should not make me this happy. But there were beavers, and there were hundreds of them. And that made me the happiest in film in 2024 this year.
Fair enough, man.
That's it.
Fair enough.
I'm a simple man. I enjoy me a good beaver outfit.
Okay. Okay. So I'm just gonna throw in a second one just quickly. It's nothing much, but I feel like I have to. I like that Godzilla -1 - color came out because we could cheat and have a reason to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
But my pick is stunt people getting recognition because of the Fall Guy.
Oh, nice.
I think it's really nice. You know, like I love action movies, and there's a lot of stunts in action movies, and we all know they exist, and we all know how important they are to movies.
Mm-hmm.
But this movie put a spotlight on stuntmen, and there was a bit of a conversation around them and stuff, and it's just kind of nice that these like unsung heroes.
Oh, that's so
You
good.
know what I mean? So that was nice.
I like that a lot.
So that's my pick. It was a Godzilla -1 color pick because as soon as we decided that we were going to use that as a cheater, I was like, there it is. That makes me happy.
Yeah.
But then the Fall Guy happened. I was like, you know what? Let's be nice. Let's be kind.
And we close things out with the thing that is back on the board or back on the map in 2024. Tyler, give me yours.
You know what? I'm going to go with Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet. But reception has been good, quite good. I was scared with the director who hadn't done anything like The Maze Runner, I think it was, right? He did all, 3 of them?
I think so.
Not the most, whatever.
Not the most well-received YA movies. Not the worst, but not the best.
Nothing that would, inspire confidence in making a really great Apes movie.
Right.
But apparently this one is really good, and I can't wait to see it. There hasn't been an Apes movie since 2017, and that's why it qualifies. Because it's been
that
quite
one
a while.
was great.
And that one was great. So, Planet of the Apes.
I like that a lot. My selection for this award is going to be fairly quick. Back on the map in 2024, slapstick comedy. Because of Hundreds of Beavers. Like, there has not been... Like, I checked this out and wanted to see, like, the highest ranked movies since, like, 2000. And you can do them with, like, all these subcategories. And slapstick comedy was one of them. Right up at the top, Hundreds of Beavers. And below that, it's like a movie here from 2007 that qualifies. Something here from 2001. Something here from 2014. So not a lot of people doing slapstick comedy over the last little while. And hey, slapstick comedy, baby, like Eli Roth last year, back on the map in 2024.
Yeah, because slapstick is so hard to do well.
It is.
Because I don't even love slapstick. That's the thing.
Right.
Like, to be honest, I don't think that many people really love it. But when a movie comes along that does it super well,
totally.
Like Hundreds of Beavers, nothing wrong with that.
It proved at least that it can still absolutely work if you do it right. Ladies and gentlemen, there are our miscellaneous mid-year movie awards for 2024. That's going to be the end of this video. We're going to come around to you for part 2, where we touch on our favorite actors, actresses, and directors of the year so far, the worst movie of the year so far, the best movies of the year so far, and the fans' choice so far in 2024, where this guy gets to put himself to the test one more time against you.
This is always a ride.
Your preferences. And he gets to make fun of you.
Yeah, it's me versus you.
We love it. That'll all be coming up in part 2, which is just around the corner.